and the one thing they're saying, they're holding people back. Well, they can't cut interest rates because inflation will go high, and then also the real estate market will go high. Well, guess what? If things continue the way it is, people are going to continue to lose homes. Mm-hmm. People can't afford to purchase groceries.
Like purchasing power is like gone.
Well, yeah, home sales not happening. So what happens on the Ontario government or the Toronto government when sales slow down? They are missing out a large chunk of their land transfer tax.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Now you have half the amount of sales and the prices are lower.
Mm-hmm.
The government's, they're scrambling. They need these interest rates. They need those taxes.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back to the DC Talks podcast with the main man, David Chinelli. I'm your co-host, Agent 00 Onosinde. And we're back, episode 81, man. We're in the 80s now. Can you believe that, man? First and foremost,
bring us back to the 80s. That'd be amazing.
I know, right?
The 1980s. You weren't even born yet.
I wasn't even born yet. But yo, listen, when I see these pictures of videos, like how life was so simple, no social media, no nothing like that. There's actually like a simplistic beauty life had that, you know.
Well, there were songs like "Smoking in the Boys' Room," which was like, taboo, like things like nowadays people don't even give a shit about that anymore. Like, yeah, it was a little more simpler there. Like, I was young. Don't get me wrong. I was born in 1978, right? So, but I lived in the 80s. I was a young kid. You get to see it. Even the 90s were pretty cool. Like,
how's Toronto back at that time?
It was so different. It was like more. I felt like it was more like smaller community. Like we lived in Rexdale, which is northern part of Toronto, with Etobicoke. And I still remember when we were going to like Canada's Wonderland, which, in Maple. And that seems so far away, right? Yeah. A half-hour drive. Oh my God, how dare you? But now it's like the world has become smaller, right? In the sense like now a half-hour drive is like nothing really.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Toronto, and getting downtown was easy. Like I remember my brother Mike and I and our friend Ryan used to go take the TTC downtown, and the only threat we ever had was if we had our Doc Martens and somebody were stealing, we get rolled for Doc Martens. You had to be careful.
People stealing Doc Martens?
Yeah. It used to be a big thing. It used to be a big thing. So people stealing Doc Martens.
You know what people steal now? Do you see now people, if you're rocking like a Montclair jacket, like you're done. Come on. I'm telling you, right? So places like in London now, London, England, people steal Canada Goose jackets. And I'm like, people steal Canada Goose jackets. But here, if you're rocking like they call Montclair. Yeah, so the Montclair jacket, like the lingo is like a Montclair. So if you're rocking a Montclair jacket, be careful because you might
get out.
People actually. I was like, people rock teeth in Montclairs. You know what I'm saying?
But does it have a logo? I have a Montclair, but it's like it's a raincoat. No one even knows it's a Montclair except for me.
I actually just my brother. He actually, he lives in Taiwan with his wife and daughter.
Yeah, and
he thought he was going to move to Canada before moving to New York and then moving back to Taiwan. So he had like a lot of clothes shipped.
You stole his clothes.
So I went back to Sarnia like about a month ago for, I think it was like a little holiday. And I'm going through my closet because I was looking to get a new duvet to bring back. And I'm going through it. I see like some jackets, some whatever. So even some of the videos I post now, like the jackets I wear, those are my brother's suit jackets. So I'm like, oh my God. And then his Montclair winter coat was there.
No, you didn't take it.
I told him like, hey bro, like I just saw your stuff here. He's like, yo bro, wear it. Take it, keep it, because it's been in the house for like 3 years now.
Oh,
so and it doesn't even fit him anymore. So all the jackets that I wear,
but he get a little too chubby.
He got bigger and everything like that. But for me, when I put on DC, it fits like a glove.
Nice.
So I can't wait to rock. I'm on Cleasy in the winter, man.
Nice. Well, speaking of high low things, prices going up.
Yes, man. People are not getting jobs, man. Like the unemployment rate is getting higher and higher. I mean, it's a little bit getting higher. But
yeah. So like there was, I had an article sent to me. The reason this topic sparked, I have a client of mine who's selling his home, and he sent me this, and it's like I did if you haven't watched the video, the reel on it, it was we just talking about the Financial Post posted this. Jobless numbers provide ammunition for further Bank of Canada rate cuts, say economists. And why this is important is that this past month, it was in June, we had the inflation numbers after the Bank of Canada cut their interest rates by a quarter of a point. First of all, nothing really happened in the market, which we anticipated. It wasn't a big enough cut. It takes some time for it to actually have an effect, right? But the quarter of a point, we knew wasn't a lot. But it was more of like the Bank of Canada, tipping their toe in. Now, historically, the Bank of Canada has never not just cut rates once and not followed it by a subsequent cut. So historically, we're all anticipating there probably is going to be another cut in July, right? But in June, what happened was the inflation numbers came out. And they came out 0.2% higher than the previous month. So there was a lot of chatter going around saying, are they going to cut rates now? Because, now inflation numbers are higher.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. That's why this article was sent to me from my client. He's like, no, there's other factors that come into whether the Bank of Canada cuts interest rates or not. It's not just inflation. Now, I don't love our monetary policy. I don't love our government, as you know. I just think they've been fucking things up so much. Our government is screwed up so bad over the last 3 years. The Bank of Canada is also fucked up. And people say, well, those are two separate entities. I don't believe so. I know that they talk, and I think a lot has to do with one with the other. So one of the biggest problems we've had was that, sure, we cut interest rates low during COVID and during the lockdowns, and it made sense, right? People couldn't afford to go anywhere, but that spiked the economy, and we had inflation for way too high for far too long. The Bank of Canada took way too long to cut interest rates, and that affected us. And then they all told us, and we have video, and if you can splice it into this, I'd love it, where both the president of the Bank of Canada said, we're not going to increase anything more than 1%. That motherfucker Trudeau also said the same shit. And I'm pointing at you again, fucking JT, all those people that love him. I don't know where your head is at. He's been lying to us for so long.
Yeah, give you a
and he's been lying and lying and lying. So that's one of the things that lied and affects me personally, because I just got my mortgage in 2022. And they set another precedent, things that they've never done before. They went up 4% and 4.5% within a year span. I'm like, these are things that the Bank of Canada has never done before. So they lied to us, and then they never followed suit. So I'm just setting it up, right? So now they've never not decreased rates back to back. Well, this might be another thing that they're just not going to not follow suit.
Yeah.
But all the other factors that go into why they cut interest rates are showing that our economy is fucking poor right now. We're really bad. Like these numbers that came out, unemployment rate rose to 6.4% in June from 6.2% in May, as the number of people looking for work increased while job creation remained virtually unstaged. Could you imagine that? So so there's 1,400 fewer positions, Stats Canada said, following from that release.
And they predicted 25 new positions in June. But the actual data showed like the 1,400 fewer positions. So they actually miscalculated the amount of jobs that are going to be available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's adding fodder. So unemployment rate is down. Our GDP is down. Right? Like everything, all the other factors. So it doesn't make sense. And there's even, so in this article, there's Royce Mendez. So he was saying, so who is Royce Mendez? I think it's October here. He's director of head of macro strategy at Desjardins Group. And he was saying too, he doesn't think that there's just going to be a rate cut in July, but there's going to be one. They expect one in September and October. And I was reading recently too, the other banks are also staying put with their prediction that they're going to cut rates. We really need rates to be cut, really, for a number of reasons. And it's not just talking about mortgage rates, but mortgage rates is what affects us. I think, was it RBC saying like last month or the month before, they had over 20% of mortgages have a mortgage payment failure, and they've never seen that. So don't use that as fun. I couldn't find the quote before today, but there was
something along those lines.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
It was a ridiculous amount that people missed a mortgage payment. They've never seen that. People are going to the grocery stores. They can't afford it.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, it's tough.
And the one thing they're saying, they're holding people back. Well, they can't cut interest rates because inflation will go high, and then also the real estate market will go high. Well, guess what? If things continue the way it is, people are going to continue to lose homes. People can't afford to purchase groceries.
Like purchasing power is like gone.
Well, yeah, home sales not happening. So what happens on the Ontario government or the Toronto government when sales slow down? They are missing out a large chunk of their land transfer tax.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
The government is expecting land transfer tax. So not only the prices are down, now last year we had 68,000 sales, just under 70,000 sales. You had the other years, in the height of 2021, 120,000 with the average price of 1.33 million. You do your own calculations. That's a lot of money into the government's pocket.
Yeah.
Now you have half the amount of sales and the prices are lower.
Mm-hmm.
The government's, they're scrambling. They
Yeah.
need these interest rates. They need those taxes.
Mm-hmm. And also too, like when I think about this as well, is I was talking to my neighbor and like this, I know we've spoken about this before, but the mass immigration coming in with a lot of people coming into the country. I mean, you see it now, like Toronto is very diverse. I mean, it's extra diverse. I mean, even if I go to Timmy's, like,
Why would you do that? I'm just joking. I'm not a huge fan of Timmy's. I don't like their coffee.
But you know, when I go to Timmy's now, it's like, but you know, it's very.
I know what you're saying.
You know,
It's very multicultural. There's
multicultural now. Yeah, and
the people working there, you know, it's as of a certain race. We know that too.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying too. Without trying to be, I know what you're saying too.
Yeah.
Well, did you know last year alone, I think we had more people leave Canada than came in, or around the same. I think it was 450,000 people left Canada, and
really?
475 came in. Oh yeah, and you got to look at, these are Canadians.
mm-hmm. They're done. They're fed up.
Well, think these are the Canadians we need to stay here. These are the entrepreneurs. These are the ones that your buddy Trudeau there that wants you to give a little bit more, give a little bit more. Like they have no more to give.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, and then Trudeau's like, oh, you want to leave the country? Oh, now you have to pay $25,000 to leave. The guy is scrambling. The writing is on the wall. He's screwing us over.
Mm-hmm.
So last year was even before the capital gains tax increased from 50% to 66% took effect. Since that announcement, there's companies that are bailing.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that are bailing.
Yeah.
Like there is no incentive for people to purchase properties or businesses and hold long term just to have the government in your pocket. I had this conversation with my mom, and she's like, you know, we're talking about my dad who passed away almost 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, you know, at one point she was crying. She's like, you know, wish he was around. And I'm like, I don't know if he'd want to be around this, not what's happening now. She's like, yeah, he would have been so upset. Like his legacy, he started building this portfolio that we currently have in the family since he was 20. So for 52 years,
he's been putting in work.
He's been putting in the work. He's been buying and selling, and my uncles are still doing it, right? And my
Yeah.
uncle Mario is killing it. He's 80 years old and still purchasing properties. Love that guy.
He still has
just,
the vigor.
the guy's amazing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, like he's just not stopping, right?
Yeah.
But he's just like, she goes, and all for what? She goes, the government's just going in and just exploiting us.
Yeah.
And the thing is that bothers me the most about the government is that they're fucking, the way that they talk to us, the condescending little chuckle. We're just asking the people to make a little more money just to give a little bit more. No, what you need to go after is the ultra rich.
Freaking Krista Friedland.
Oh, Chris, have you seen how much debt she has run? I just read today it was like $400 billion or $40 billion in debt since she's been the finance minister. And she's the one saying, oh, we don't know where all the money went. I'm like, come on, lady. Like, you're the one that spent the money.
Mm-hmm.
This is the problem with having a socialistic government, right?
Cabinet, yeah.
They spend, and they start blaming other people. And that's what's happening right now. They're blaming other people for their lack of knowledge how to balance a freaking checkbook, for crying out loud, let alone a budget. So this is the problems we're having right here, right? So this is what's happening. And now with the capital gains tax, I've heard of people are exiting here. And then now, not only that, like the country has gone so poor. So what I'm saying is like, back to the Bank of Canada need to cut interest rates so people can live. There are people coming into the country, and people laughed at me before when I said this. Well, we actually knew Ukrainians that came in and went back to war countries collecting their whatever, the $300 or $3,000. They stayed here for a couple of months and said, this is not what we were told it was. And they left. There is now I don't know how many interviews they've had for Indians that came here too, that they were sold
a dream.
The dream.
Yes.
And they're living on the streets as refugees, or they're like, not, but they're that's why in Brampton they're selling, they're renting out little shacks or corners of a bed, for crying out loud, for you to sleep in, because they have no place for them to be. And they're like, this is not what we were sold on.
Mm-hmm.
We're the word Canada is getting,
it doesn't hold prestige anymore, right? It doesn't. Even though it's like you talk about the immigrants, especially the Indian community coming in here, there was even some being reported on, like they're actually leaving the country. So there's actually this, I was on CD News. So, like, where are you going? Oh, I'm going back to India. Like, why? Because like, it's just not the same. I can't even survive. I can't make money. And the thing they incentivize them with, especially the mass immigration, is because the education system is making it super easy for them to do so. So they just need like a certificate of some course at York University, like late nights. You know, the way get an easy grade so they can show they went to school, and then they get PR, and then now they become part of the Trudeau army, like they're actually being influenced, and now it's all to keep this cabinet.
But I think it's backfiring a little bit.
You think so? How so?
Well, also because again, they're selling them a dream. When they come here, they realize it's not what they told them it was. Canada is no longer is a beautiful country or the way to make it where it was. Like, let's be honest, when the PC government was in here, you know, I wasn't a fan of Harris. I just wasn't, you know, like what it was, but it was Harris, right?
Like progressive party though.
Yeah,
like,
PC. Before Trudeau was Harris, right? I always
it's Harper. Right?
Harper,
yeah.
That's what I meant. I was a fan of Harper, what he was doing, but I thought when he was up against Trudeau, that he just mailed it in, right? And I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. Like, just because I was a card-carrying PC at that point, which means my political allegiance was to my PC company, the party that I went for, I voted against him because I thought he was just mailing it in. And I tell people all the time, you know, it's not a marriage. It's just going on a date. Like, just feel the person out. You could change for a short period of time. So I'm imploring my liberal followers right now, get Trudeau out, even for one term. Poilievre, like him, hate him, doesn't matter. He won't last more than 4 years because Trudeau has left the government in such shambles that there's nothing the one government can do to reverse the damage he's done in one term. So if you're not happy with him, the whole thing is just get Trudeau out and get a better leader for the Liberal Party. And that way, if you want the Liberal Party to be back in, like Jean Chrétien, which I actually like Jean Chrétien, I'll say honestly, like when I was a kid, I don't know if you remember him, but he did a good job running our country. You know, it was what it was. Like, do that. I would think if you are a Canadian, you care, put your ego aside, you know, and for all your liberals out there, think about it, right? You may not like Poilievre, who he is, but first of all, you know, he's arrogant, all that stuff too. So is Trudeau. You know, I've heard one guy tell me he's a thief. I'm like, have you seen Trudeau's pocketbook of what he's done since he's in power? There is no way he would have made that money unless there's inside trading. It's just impossible. The guy has been called to the court more than he should have been. I guess we're allowed to impeach, but he should have been kicked out or impeached. He is such a crook. Yeah. So whatever Poilievre has done, Trudeau's done way worse, but they don't want to see it that way. For a second, guys.
Leave your feelings at the door, man.
Leave your feelings at the door. Just get Trudeau out. We'll all be happy and let's reset. I implore you, let's reset. Because right now, our country is in shambles. It really is. And it's just going to get worse. And yeah, we started this conversation by the jobless numbers, but what I'm seeing over here is not good. Where we're seeing here, you know, in Toronto, there are very few properties. Sure, the ultra rich, not the ultra rich. So you know, the luxury homes are still selling. You know, like
people are still buying. Is it like foreign buyers or like actually?
No, foreign buyers. There's a ban right now. There's a 2-year ban on foreign buyers. Yeah, you have to have certain things. You have PRs and things. So it's not from overseas. And you also got to remember here, like some of the policies we're gonna have in Canada have nothing to do with Ontario. So with like this ban, what was happening with the ban here in Ontario was there was threats that overseas money like China was buying properties and they're using it to launder money or to get money out of China. And it was happening, but it was happening in BC. I have a friend of mine who works, I think it was Rothmans or one of the other cigarette companies. And he used to travel to BC and he's like, Dave, I'm sitting outside having a e-smoke right now. And he's like, all these buildings are blacked out. I'm like, what do you mean they're blacked out? And his dad's a realtor too. And he goes, so what they were doing was they were buying pre-construction buildings, get the money out from China and never living in there. So all these buildings and the residents of British Columbia were trying to buy, but couldn't buy into them because all of the foreign buyers were buying all these properties and no one was living in there. It was a way for them to get the money out of China. So that's why the foreign ban was happening, because what's happening is, you know, basically economics 101, supply and demand. The demand was decreased demand was increased because supply was no longer there because they weren't actually used to live. They weren't even renting them out. They were just keeping them blacked out. So no one's living in there. So the Toronto government thought, we should also do this vacant tax thing. It's not the same. So some of the policies we have here in Toronto and Ontario are done throughout the rest of done because of BC, which actually have nothing to do with us here in the Toronto real estate area board or Toronto real estate in general. One of the other ones was foreign buyers. I think at one point the height was like 2 to 3% of buyers in Toronto and the GTA were foreign buyers. And there's certain pockets where they're more predominant than other ones. So yeah, I can see like all these policies are bullshit. They are. They're absolutely bullshit. It's not foreign buyers that coming in forcing our prices up. But what you are doing now, I also don't agree with that policy because in the past, US governments are telling people, hey, Toronto real estate at the point was Toronto real estate in general was a good play. It was a good investment for you to make because at that point, our prices were lower than BC. If you're in New York, they were like, not half the price, but they were very, very cheap compared to BC. And our market was continue to grow. We're in a mature market. Now, sure, our market will bounce back, hopefully, eventually. Right now, we're pretty flat compared to last year over year. But that's not because of the foreign policies. That's because of our fiscal policy.
Yeah.
Sorry, not fiscal, our monetary policy. So if they decrease the rates, the interest rates, overnight rates, that'll help. If they also release the ban, maybe they keep the ban in BC because, that's fine. But they should remove it for the rest of the world. I don't see a Chinese buyer wanting to go to Saskatoon to buy a property. Like
what's there to do there?
What's there to do in Saskatoon? Yeah. No offense to anybody in Saskatoon or Regina, for crying out loud. But you see what I mean?
Regina.
But one of the other things, so the only thing I've ever seen is the negative was the one of the reasons why they may not cut in July would be, because the inflation numbers went up. But hold on a second. On July 24th is when the announcement happens. The inflation numbers come out July 16th. So if 100%, and I'm not sure when this airs, what's today's date?
Next week.
So 16. By the time this airs, this will air on a Monday. Yeah. So by the Tuesday, the numbers should be out, right? So if you're watching this after the Tuesday, you'll know the results. I expect that the inflation numbers either stay stagnant or drop, right? It'll give them another cog in the wheel. But again, even if the inflation number is a little bit higher, the rest of the economy, like my broker of record's been saying for years, is much worse than the numbers are showing. The numbers are finally catching up. And that is why we need to cut the interest rates. Talk to any of your friends. Like, how many people you know that can't afford groceries?
A lot. Like even I have to turn down like dinners and outings, and even like, yo, you wanna come? I was like, man, that's like DC. You step out the house, $100 gone, easy. $40 Uber. Let's say you need to go to LCB to buy a drink, to go to a low free. Okay, $30 right there, and then like munchies or whatever along the way, or any miscellaneous expense that comes up, $100. So you can't really frivolously spend, or of course for me as a business owner, right? You really gotta like watch the numbers, but it's not as easy as it was back in like 2019, I'd say.
I think I feel with a family of 4.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Like, you have a lot going on. You have your properties, you have a business, and your business is predominantly based on like the effort you put out. You're not banking on like a bi-weekly check back when you're like doing your treasury job and everything like that. But how are you feeling with all this? Do you ever
it's tight. The money's tight. I like, so we've been using a lot of our line of credit too. Like, so especially what the worst parts are when I have to pay property taxes 6 months of the year, right? Because cash flow. So I have all those properties, right? So you accumulate money. Like right now, like the way that we work here is I have the corporation pays me.
So the corporation salary pays you like
my salary. All of my salary goes to pay for my mortgages and stuff and to pay out. Like I don't make any money on there too. Like I was saying to my friend the other day, and it was like, when's the last time you saw me buy anything expensive? Hey, I can ask you. Like, do you see me wearing like newer Gucci shoes?
Not same really. Ones.
No, I have newer Rolexes and new like stuff too. Like, no, I'm not. No. Listen, we're all feeling the pinch. Like. That's the thing. We're all feeling the pinch. And it's like, it's not just you. I just have a line of credit with help. So like there's some months we have a downfall, which comes like I don't have as much money. We use our line of credit. Our line of credit's been like this year has been our saving grace. Because all the money that I have goes towards paying that. Like, so that little interest rate cut was fine, but it doesn't affect everything. So we're getting a little more cash flow. That's why when on my videos, I'm saying, I feel your pain because I also am in it with you. I'm not just, I don't have a mortgage paid off. No, I got 6, 7 mortgages, something like that. And some of them are running in the red. And I have to fund those. And sorry, when I have to pay taxes, yeah, I'm borrowing. I'm borrowing money to pay my taxes. So yeah, like all we're doing is we're staying the course at this point because we knew that the interest rates were going to drop. They're dropping a little slower than we anticipated. Nobody anticipated a 4% increase or 4.5% increase, which was a lot. But dude, like we were one of the proponents. I'm not pushing this just because I'm a realtor and I need them. I'm pushing this because I'm a homeowner. I'm a landlord. You know, I see how much it costs my family. We go to Costco. It cost me $1,000 the other day to go to Costco.
$1,000,
$1,100 actually, but
for food.
Yeah, but I stocked up on meats and stuff too because I was like, screw this. I'm just gonna do whatever I need. I'm like, I'll freeze whatever I don't use. But that's only gonna last us like a week and a half. Like there's 4 mouths for me to feed in my house.
Can't believe it, man.
It's not cheap.
And the reason I'm asking you this is like, do you feel like, okay, people see you, right? You're successful, you have everything, top performer, everything. They think like, oh yeah, David has it easy. Like he's, you know, he has everything. People
always think that. And that's also why I don't show a lot of my lifestyle and stuff too, because it's like, that's not my thing. Right.
Yeah.
But people just assume stuff, right? Sure. We're selling business stuff too. But it's like, well, yeah, like, you know, like I do well, but it's like, but I'm always worried about my next paycheck. I'm looking at what's happening with the corp. I've seen the taxes. I had to pay taxes this year on both sides. That hurt, you know, like you
took a hit.
And the market's been slower. Like we were anticipating, like I'm not halfway. I was hoping by June I'd be halfway there. I'm not. I wasn't there.
To the milli goal.
Yeah. So there's a few properties I need to sell. Hopefully the interest rate will help that with all of us. I think the interest rate will help with the business, but also help with personal. But again, I'm not looking at these articles with selfish glasses, you know, or rosy colored glasses. I'm looking at the numbers, and when I see the numbers here and the unemployment are agreeing with my wants, it makes me happy. I just hope they put their ego aside and cut the rates. And I said over here, like Mendez also said, it's clear the Bank of Canada should cut on its next interest rate announcement and keep cutting at the September and October meetings. Wouldn't that be glorious?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So let's focus.
Even if I don't sell another house, that just helps. It helps me personally. Like I'm just telling you. Like I think all of us are like, give us a little sign of relief. But again, you do realize that some of the inflation numbers, a lot of them are housing costs.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why inflation, you know, that they're tied together. Higher mortgage rates increases inflation. Higher, have you seen the price of rents? Have they gone up? Again, infects.
I heard like the rents are like stable now. My neighbors,
they are more stable, but they're still expensive.
Yeah. So what's the average of like a 1-bedroom now that you're seeing?
In Toronto, around $2,500.
$2,500 for a 1-bed.
1-bed, yeah.
Sheesh. And that's like a newer build, like let's say
that's just average
overall, even like an apartment.
I rented one for 2350, which is, you know, it was good size. It was about
600 feet. 650?
No, it wasn't 600, and it was with parking. Yeah,
it wasn't 600.
No,
and 2350.
Yeah,
so it's smaller.
Yeah,
dude, you're kidding me.
No. I rented a 2-bedroom earlier in the year for 2-bedroom, 2-bath for $4,400 with parking, and it's under 1,000 square feet. 2-bedroom. It's at College and Young, you know.
Okay, but like when you hear those kind of numbers, right? And I know these numbers, but I'm just feeling for everybody. Like with everything that we just spoken about here, like no jobs, more people coming in, interest rates getting higher. So I feel like you're stuck in this. You're like, you know when they say you're stuck in a rock and a hard place?
Yep.
You're pretty much there. I feel like people are like this.
Yeah.
Like if you go here and go here, oh, I got a different. Okay, I'm screwed.
But what's also not helping is between that, like one of the reasons why you're tight like that is because of the policies that we have with the government. This capital gains, like, so people are like, what's the point of building a business here? They're pulling out. So job creation, of course, is going to go down. It just makes sense. Why are people expending more? Why would they hire more people? It's like, why are you looking to advance? So they go hand in hand. So this is why we went off with all this stuff too. They're all tied together. So sure, they can cut interest rates, but until people see like some of the policies that the Liberal government came with that they're hurting the Canadian economy, nothing's going to change, my friend. That's what I'm trying to say. You need to get these guys out. We need a whole thing. We need a whole revamp. So we need a whole revamp of the government. Now, the one of the knocks of people saying, and God help us, we have good old Dougie Ford not really representing the PCs
dollar
too
beers,
much.
baby.
But here's the thing is people don't like what he's done because they're like, oh, he's all for big business. But at the end of the day, they're still creating jobs, right? Like, listen, I'm not a fan of the Fords and what they've done. I think there's all these stories about them being in high school and crooks and all this other stuff too. There's so many background listeners.
At least
if you've grown up anywhere in Etobicoke, you've heard
The
stories
Fords.
of what the Ford brothers have done. And it's not a good track record, right? Let's be honest. There have been bullies and all this other stuff too, like literally, right? But the one thing you do know is like in a place when you're looking at the federal government and you're seeing what they're like, they have like laissez-faire economics. I have no idea what they're doing. Like, let's go by the wind, and it's not working. You need to run the country like a business.
They're running everything on feelings.
Yeah.
Right. DC, I know we're running up on time here, but a couple questions like for buyers.
I don't feel like we are. No joking. That was just
let's talk about like the buyers and sellers, right? Because this is like a real estate conversation and you're a realtor, right? So how should sellers like adjust their expectations and strategies in the current market?
Honestly, I've told a lot of my sellers to hold off until the interest rate cuts, unless you need to sell. So the first thing I always say to you have to go back to maybe sell first and figure out how much money you can earn. The only problem with that is that you're going to miss out on the buyer's market, the interest rates cut. So there's a lot of things we can say here. So first thing I would say, unless you need to sell, don't sell right now. Okay. Hold off because you will get more money in the near future, especially if they cut interest rates. Any of those interest rate cuts, the market should come back and you should get more money. Second thing is if you're able to buy now and then hold on, maybe carry a couple of properties for 4 to 6 months in case, worst case scenario, that's probably a good idea. It's because you can buy in an opportunity now where the market is lower and hold off until the market and hold off and listing your home till the market increases. I've told my clients I would try to get a longer closing and see if that works. The third thing is, if you're going to buy and sell in the same market, put your house up for sale now, sell now to know how much money you have in your pocket. If you're worried, if you're not able to carry both properties, it's the least amount of risk. In a hot market where a market is like it's a seller's market, you had to buy first because that house has gone like this and you know you can sell like this. That's no longer the case, right? Even if you have priced this house correctly right now, it's still buyers have more choice, so it's taken them a lot longer to pull the trigger on things. So be cognizant of that. So those are the three options we have for you right now. The other option is if you can. So the fourth option is buy and rent your current property if you're able to carry the other property. So those are the strategies. Those are the four strategies.
So like buy in like a certain area outside of like the GTA.
I didn't say that. You can buy in the GTA. Like, look, have you seen condos lately? There's so much inventory for condos. The prices have actually gone down the last 2 years, right? If we're going to look at the June numbers, not a lot. Last year, between last June and this June, the price has gone down 0.9%. And the year before that, it was 1.9%. So you got to remember, historically, before COVID, I remember I've told you this before, when we had the economic analysis, they told us we were in a bubble back in 2008. We had 80 months of continuous growth year over year for condo markets. That means every year, every month, you knew your price of your value of your property was going up. That will return. That will return. But it might take a couple of years for that to return.
Amazing. And lastly, what are your real estate predictions over the next 6 to 12 months?
6 to 12. So that puts us into what?
2025, pretty much.
No kidding. I'm saying what month? Like December? Like January? Sorry.
Let's
January.
say, like December, like when it's all said and done, 2024, right?
So one of the things I had one of my clients, he sold his house. He bought a property next door to his home and I'm using this as an anecdote, right? He bought next door. He's got about a $3.5 million home. And he's like, I'll buy this property. We're going to knock it down. And I'm going to sell my house now. I said, whoa, wait a second. Do you need to sell your home? He's like, well, no, not right now. I said, then don't. He's like, well, why? He's like, Because what are you going to do? You're going to sell your home and then rent till this property is ready. It doesn't make sense. What I think is going to happen is next year, like especially if there's going to be at least anywhere from 2 to 4 rate cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And in the year, your price, that $3.4 million home is going to go up 10%. That's what I think is going to happen in the year's time. 6 months time, they're going to. So I think interest rates are going to get cut at least June, if not September and October. It's going to take about 4 or 5 months for it to recoup. But I do anticipate we're actually going to have a busier fall than we did a busier spring market. And I believe that, believe it or not, I think the actual winter time is going to be busier than we had earlier this year. Mm-hmm. So I think those are my predictions.
Amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the DC Talks podcast with David Chinelli. Thank you so much for listening. Comment below here on the YouTube comments, whatever you think. If you see one of these clips on David's Instagram, leave your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back next week. Next week with a special treat. My guy DC here is interviewing me. It only took about 80-something episodes for him to suggest this idea. But you know what? We'll go with it. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. Don't think. I'm not dissing. I'm just joking. But it's
not like he's on with me every episode. People can see his face, right? Yo, wait, before we get into that.
What's up?
Most of the comments I get when I talk to them in my podcast is all about you. Everyone's, who's this Owen guy? Yeah, by the way. So I'm wanting to dig into that. Yeah. My audience likes you. My audience likes you, apparently.
What do they say? I don't see it in the comments on your clips.
No, these are like my family members. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I'm just kidding, bro. No hard feelings, all right? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Guys, get those subscribers up. We see a lot of people watching the channel, but they don't subscribe. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow David at DavidVChinelli_realtor on Instagram. And yes, send us a DM with your thoughts, how we can improve the episode, any new topics. And we'll see you next week for episode 82. Cheers.
See you later.